Hello, Dr. Samir. Nice to see you also. We're ready? Okay, fine, fine, thanks. Okay, good afternoon. Warm welcome to all of you, which I believe right now is just about two participants. So, Dr. Siddhi S from PSGCT and Annapurna Madhuri, warm welcome. We have more instructors right now. There's Dr. Samir Sahasrabudhe, Jatin Ambasana, who's the TA, and myself, Sahana Murthy. Okay, so anyway, what we've done today is we have collated some of your questions that have been posted on the forum or the form and all, and we'll go through some of these. We will begin with the conceptual questions, okay? And maybe what we can do is, since the two live participants are there, we can have a very intimate discussion also. So we'll begin with some of the existing questions, and then I'll just hand it over to a couple of you. You can just unmute and speak at that point. I hope that works. Okay, so Jatin, can we go to the next slide? Okay, one question from Shriji Kurup was about digital Bloom's taxonomy, that it appears that it's designed primarily for the cognitive domain and all the indicators are on that basis. And the comment is that integrating the affective domain indicators, emotional indicators, attitudinal indicators would enhance the scope of application. Is it possible, and in what ways do digital tools address affective learning? So this comment is very well taken. Okay, your point is very, very valid. Now, a bit of the history here. So digital Bloom's taxonomy is based on the original or the revised Bloom's taxonomy, which has indicators in three different domains. The cognitive domain is what we are all very familiar with: recall, understand, apply, analyze, going all the way up to create. So digital Bloom's taxonomy is based on the revised Bloom's taxonomy cognitive domain. But the original Bloom's taxonomy also has an affective domain and a psychomotor domain. And those are really not as popular, they're not being used. You can go look it up, even Wikipedia has it, or we can provide a link to the course. And there are levels, there are indicators in the affective and the psychomotor domains in the original Bloom's taxonomy. In digital Bloom's taxonomy, or when it comes to learning with technology, definitely affect plays a role. There are research studies trying to understand, the role of motivation, self-efficacy, interest, engagement, and so on. I don't know of any taxonomy that has made its way to the digital world so prominently. Actually, it may exist, but I'm not very familiar. But this is definitely a point which is, it's a topic of current research, and it's a very valid point that you make. If you are interested, go look at the original Bloom's taxonomy. We'll post a link, and I'll try to do it in chat before the end of this session. Or maybe we'll put it on the forum also, and it might help. Samir, anything to add to this?
No, I think it is, I think, based on the additional reading material, the LXT that we had posted. So I think one thing I can feel good about is that people are reading through the LXTs and then responding quite appropriately to the whole thing. So right. Yes, maybe we can have a LXI on it probably, and people can discuss more. That's right. One thing I can suggest.
Right. Actually, this is an interesting PhD problem for my students, create a taxonomy for affect when learning with digital tools. If it doesn't exist, we have to do our lit review, but if it doesn't exist, this instrumentation or this framework would be a good PhD level problem. Okay, any comments from the audience who's logged in? Annapurna Madhuri, Dr. Siddhyas, Himlata, any comments you have with respect to this question? At any time, if you want, just raise your hand. Okay, we can have a dialogue. Jatin, next, please. Okay, so here are two questions by Dr. P. Rajmohan. Can we have more than one instructor handling an LED in a dialogue format rather than having one instructor dealing with LED in a monologue format? And the analogy given is that of cricket commentaries made by two commentators, and it's more engaging. So again, it's a very interesting design that you propose, and the analogy is also very well taken. Now, I would like to go further. I'll hand it over to Samir in a moment because he's the video production design person, the expert in the team. But the spirit behind the dialogue here was a dialogue between the instructor and the learners. So it should, while having two instructors is a great format, but if we can expand that a little bit and see how we can use this technology to just bring in a more natural dialogue, especially between the learner and the instructor, can we do it? What you're suggesting, I know, is still a canned video format. So, Samir, ideas on how to incorporate this in the in a in a video which is pre-recorded.
Yes. So obviously, yeah, two speakers talking to each other would definitely be a nice thing to have. In fact, if you go back to one of the pre-course content that we release, where we have four instructors actually discussing about couple of things, we have often got feedback that yes, all my points which I had in mind were ideally captured because A, B, C, D were talking about it. One after another. So it was very nice that everything reflected. Although still we will call it as passive interaction because you are not able to participate in that. Therefore, yes, the it will just break the monotony of the video production. Like you say that we add some slides here or we have animations here and graphics and diagrams. So that is also breaking the monotony. Instead of that, we have another person. So voice and face of another person is also one technique of doing that. But it is not only intensive in terms of production because we need to manage two people to come together in the same room and start recording, or even if in online mode like we are doing it at distance. But still, this becomes a dependability issue, and hampers production. If I just answer it from the purely from the production purpose, but from the interaction or the quality of interaction, if you ask me, yes, it is good, but it can be achieved even in multiple ways that way. So it's a good suggestion. It will be even maybe I can suggest is that it can, so we can think of some already canned content available. So if there is a nice, for example, we get access to maybe Professor Eric Mazur's talk about peer interaction, peer instruction. So if we just say something about it and then introduce that particular video in between and then again give our comments on top of that, such things are also possible. So but the I think the plan has to be like that. So the moment we decide that we'll go beyond a monologue, I think all these options suddenly make sense, and therefore it is nice to have that. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I also want to bring back the attention to the original purpose, intended purpose of the LED, of the learning dialogue. One of it clearly is engagement, cognitive engagement in the topic. And what Dr. Rajmohan is suggesting and what Dr. Samir elaborated so nicely, it definitely would help in terms of making the video more engaging, more interesting, rather than one person speaking. But the other important purpose is actually learning, learning and reflection. So the purpose of the learning dialogue here is to tell the learner to pause, think about exactly what's going on, formulate their own answer. So we shouldn't lose track of that aspect. Even if we have two people speaking, we can do that occasionally. And like Samir mentioned, doing it too often is going to be a little costly in terms of video production, also cumbersome. But it's a nice technique to do within a video, and we can use it sparingly, judiciously. But the core idea of the learning dialogue, where the learner is supposed to connect, think back to their prior knowledge, for example, think about applications, we should not lose sight of that. So even when we have two people, we still need to pause the video, make the learner write something, do something, and then go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to exactly this point about, so the moment the pause happens, and even we know about statistics that not many people actually pause it, or They just wait for the video to go ahead without actually physically pausing it. But many people have confirmed in our personal interviews also that that pause where there is nothing happening, that actually triggers the dialogue. So that is where they start mentally answering the question. Some of them don't write answer, like they don't take a paper and pen and actually write down, where sometimes we have said in our learning dialogue reflection spot question that take a paper, write down your answer, and then play the video back. Nobody does that. So let us say that many people don't do that, but still when you mentally start answering the question, the dialogue has already begun and that monotony is already broken. And as Professor Sahana said, the learning has started because the reflection has started. So I think that is the beauty of it, which gets probably diluted when other person will answer it. So then you don't get that space to actually think over it and answer it. So that's how I think I can put it.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next part. Is it possible to incorporate collaboration tools that can support the peer review process in a way that everyone can see the comments received for all assignments, so that it could be a peer learning opportunity on creativities? So let's take this in two steps. Okay, the first step is, do we want this as instructors? And I think it's a balance between openness and transparency and making sure that there's learning happening with all, versus some sort of privacy issues, I think. And it's the culture that we set in our classrooms. In fact, learning should be more open, but I think we need to make some effort to put in a culture where, let's say I'm a student and I write something and my classmates, say Jatin sitting right next to me, he gives some comments. We both should be okay that everyone in the class has access to those comments. You have to be a bit careful here because sometimes people may not want to expose their responses. They may want to sort of think about it more independently. So it's a bit of a balance. And if you decide to go ahead in the spirit of openness and learning and transparency, we need to really discuss this with our students and in fact get consent from everybody. Okay, that this is what happens. If to give you an analogy, when you think of a peer review process in terms of with journals and all, when we submit papers, most of the time it's double blinded. The authors don't know who the reviewers are, the reviewers don't know who the authors are, and nobody else other than the editor knows it. So um, that there the purpose there is not transparency in learning. There it's to improve the manuscript, and also it's not an exact parallel, but there are issues of privacy, and I'm not against this at all. In fact, I think it is a good idea, but the caution is to make sure that we set that environment, that open environment in the classroom. How can it be done? And since Dr. Jaykrishnan has joined, maybe JK, you can take this. Is it possible to use technology to incorporate something like this? Any collaboration tool? Let's see if he's there. I see him logged
Yeah,
in.
so Sana, so the peer review, the current in okay, how do I put it? So
So
yes,
essentially, can other participants see the peer review comments, whether we use Moodle or the LMS that we
so
use?
in an LMS, it is more or less closed because this is more used for
Assessment.
assessment kind of way. The way in which I would look at this is maybe a Google Doc or a Padlet can be a possible alternate where I give the edit permission and I have people commenting below each of the Padlet posts. I mean, maybe I can ask them to upload the constructor itself in the Padlet.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, because Padlet is open, public, whatever is that setting, then practically everyone can join and they can comment. And everybody is able to see everybody's comment.
Yeah.
But I would agree to you. We have to have a balance between what this peer review is used for. So over here, the idea is that we expose 3 or 4 people to what others have done in terms of constructor. So rather than having all 300 of them watch it in the LXI. So last year, what we did was we asked people to post their constructors in the discussion forum and let people comment on it. And there we have seen that, okay, I mean, there's only one type of comment coming in. And in fact, we have done this in our ET for ET also. I mean, we asked people to upload it in discussion forum and start commenting on it. So there the problem is, yeah, I mean, we have seen these altercations between people. I mean, one approach, yeah, I mean, somebody is sticking to why you are not using this approach. This should be the way this topic should be done. And many times we have to intervene in between and work on it. Work on.
So a bit of jargon here, you know, this JK, what you're suggesting, it's called social annotation, right? You may be familiar with it. So it's a it's a pedagogical tool that people in several courses are using, especially courses where there are a lot of big ideas and conceptual discussions that are required, perhaps in the social sciences and so on. Now, there's a whole set of guidelines and etiquette that has to be agreed upon by the community that is working on these social annotations. Google Docs is one tool they use. Hypothesis is another tool which is very commonly used. These are the two ones that I'm familiar with. But if you're interested in doing this, just you can look for guidelines for social annotation or etiquette for social annotation. And because see, the concerns are these. One is, like JK said, maybe there's altercations. What sort of tone do people use? How do you give constructive criticism? Be respectful and polite at the same time, talk about the subject matter. Then the other set is, how do you make sure that there is equitable participation? Because sometimes if you make it fully open, unless there is some sort of checks and balances, maybe 5 people are the loudest ones and they write all the annotations. Like in the class, you have those 3 students who are always speaking and everybody else doesn't. So we need to be aware of these concerns and avoid them as much as possible. Okay, let's move on. Jatin, can we go to the next slide, please? Actually, let me pause here and see if there are questions from the live audience members. We've done 2 questions which we have already received. Annapurna Madhuri, Dr. Siddhi, Hemlata, any questions, comments? Yeah, please, Hemlata, go ahead.
In fact, the previous question which was asked, so I had taken a course from AICT in which it was a management course in which the LED was in the form of an interview with senior management from industry. So they shared their experiences and the learners listened to that. So an interview format was also used as an LED in that course.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the question on LBD. The next slide, please, Jatin. Here, it says, since LBD is a non-graded activity, can we have an LBD in this course, maybe in future versions, with technology tools provided in the LXTs? Sure, definitely. We will make a note of this. Thanks for the suggestion.
In fact, we can have a LBD where, so we are already introduced Bookroll, which is a PDF document. And I think we are opening it up for TAs as an LBD activity where, so already the TAs have contributed one activity, which is the LED. What is an LBD is the transcript has been converted into an LED format by the TAs. And we have already uploaded that in Bookroll. So what we could actually try out is, if the participants are interested, they could submit their constructors to us. Maybe we'll float a form for it or directly use the constructors after the peer review. And we can float it as a PDF activity over there, which the participants can also internally, look into how it came out when it was converted into a Bookroll document and all those things. Anyway, we are going to do this with the TAs. We are going to ask TAs to create constructors and upload in Bookroll. So similarly, I think we can also encourage participants to do something similar. and they can give pointers to these tools that they used. I don't remember what is 3.2 and 3.3, but I mean, obviously, these are external resources. They could point to them as recommended reading resources inside Bookroll. So that we could help them with. That's one possible suggestion that I can give at this moment.
Yeah, so maybe Jatin can look up which tools exactly are 3.2 and 3.3, and you can just post on chat, okay? Because even I have forgotten exactly which tools.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Jatin, you'll see Jatin as a tile here, but he's sitting right next to me. That's why I keep turning towards him. Since you were talking of Bookroll, coincidentally, Dr. Ritojit Majumdar just joined us. So maybe we can go to one. There is one question or something on Bookroll. Maybe we can just talk about that. So I think many of you have asked how to access Bookroll. Jatin, let's go to slide 13. How to access Bookroll, and we have just put together a link on how to access it. We will post the link in the forum also. But since Rito has joined, anything you want to talk about Bookroll, Rito?
Hey, hi. Thank you. I think GK and Jatin and all the other members have already created a wonderful support and resources for using Bookroll. What we have tried to do is we have directly added Bookroll through the Swayam platform. So once you log into Swayam platform, that's where you can see Bookroll as one of the activities. GK, am I correct in that?
Yes, it is one of the activities.
Yes, so when you click on that, you can directly look at the Bookroll list of contents. Currently, they have uploaded all the lecture transcripts as well as some other resource material. So the entry point to Bookroll is through your Swayam platform.
Okay, thank you, Rito. There is a bunch of questions. There are a bunch of questions on some logistics and procedural aspects, and I think people will be keen on getting them answered. There's one on slide 6. It says, "I have a question of the use of NPTEL and SWAYAM. Can state agricultural universities in the ICAR system become part of it?" So, JK, over to you for this one.
Yeah, so what you have to understand is NPTEL is part of the larger umbrella called Swayam, and NPTEL is one of the national coordinator under Swayam. So I am from NPTEL. I represent NPTEL in many of these meetings. Similarly, Dr. Samir is part of another national coordinator, which is CEC. Okay, so Consortium of Educational Communication. So there are these different national organizers. The easiest thing, agricultural courses, I don't know which national coordinator is mandated to do those kind of courses. So one point could be that, okay, you can think of adding the all agricultural universities. So this requires sufficient amount of effort from the university, the people involved, to collaborate with multiple agricultural universities and come up with a consortium. Okay, come up with a consortium, and that consortium can offer courses in Swayam. I would say for starters, I would always recommend that you try this out with one of the existing national coordinator. I think the closest that I could see is AICTE, because it is easier. They have much broader mandate. This could be easily done by AICTE, unless Dr. Samir says that, yeah, CEC is willing to take up agricultural universities also. So yeah, one of these is the quickest way of doing it. But on a longer thought process, what I would recommend is, if there are, it's not, so the goal of Swayam or NPTEL or any of us is not about being an exclusive deliverer, right? I mean, the idea is also to reach to masses and ensure that there is a sustainable system of providing courses, making use of the infrastructure, trying to make use of, then trying appropriate courses across. What would be nice is if you could gather at least 6 or 7 agricultural universities across various states, or some good reputed institutions come together, form a consortium, have some standards of how do you select courses, what all things would be done, have an office. So all these are things that you could think of for the long term. But for the current term, try contacting one of us, see how a course can be offered, understand the processes, understand how things can be done, and then yeah, replicate. I mean, I wouldn't say replicate, adapt and innovate in your own context. I think that's the right way of going about it. Dr. Samir, any other thoughts?
So Samir said he may step out for 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, he has stepped out. Yeah, he has stepped out. Yeah, so generally, so if you ask me, Sanskriti may not this, I mean, we are not saying that it is not possible. So Swayam, everything comes under Swayam. So you just have to figure out a way through which it works. How NPTEL works is NPTEL works. So we have these 7 IITs and IISc, which are part of the core consortium called NPTEL. So everything is available in our website, nptel.ac.in. And we have a program implementation committee. They set up the rules, whom to invite, what is the invitation process. Basically, the courses has to be offered in one of the IITs and it should be approved by the Senate. That's the latest things. I mean, if you look at the regulations, the instructor should have offered the course minimum 2 times. There should be some sufficient student rating for the instructor. Yeah, then that's when. So there are certain rules and regulations when it comes to NPTEL courses. And each and every national coordinator will have some set of rules at their end. So the easiest way I would say is, I mean, if you could collaborate with an IIT, one of these IITs, possibly I think civil department or a geology department. I don't know which one will come closer, or a environmental science department. Try offering a course, try co-offering a course and see what the processes are, and then try to replicate at your end, form a consortium. Yeah, start offering the courses. The larger idea again is to reach out to large number of learners. Anybody within India should be able to take up these kind of courses, which otherwise would not be possible in their own local context. Maybe colleges may not be there, courses may not be there, instructors may not be there. There could be several reasons for that, right? So yeah, so this is something that you can try for, yeah, when you want to offer courses in it. And I see, yeah, definitely all the major, yeah, so all national bodies, we do invite them. Another thing that you can look at is, so there is something called NPTEL self-paced learning site. So Jatin, can you just open the site elearn.nptel.ac.in?
Yeah, he's just on it. One moment.
Yeah. So this is a very recent initiative by NPTEL, wherein we want more institutions more people to offer courses in a self-paced format. So you could see these programs. So can you click on programs over there? Yeah, so partnering courses. Can you click on partnering courses? So the idea is more centrally funded institutes, etc. If they don't have a setup at their end, we could support them with the LMS, and yeah, they could offer these courses under these partnering courses format. So the major thing is that the institute, they can offer, they can use their own expertise, and they can create the content. We are just providing a platform, the same Swayam platform. We have a different version of it, an open source version of it, which is provided by Google to us. That open source version is being used for offering this particular thing called, we call it NPCL Plus. Maybe this might be one possibility that you could try out. Again, this is all the other details about how all those things comes up. Once you start contacting NPCL office, we'll be able to provide more details. But yeah, these are the two different modes in which I can clearly see organizations like ICAR and all participating in this large scale effort. Sahana, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jay Krishnan. So, see, we have a question from Dr. Nipa Dilip Kumar Pandi on late enrollment, and it's a very individual thing. So, my suggestion is, Dr. Nipa, we will not do it, will not address it right now, but we will, I'll request Jatin and the TAs to address this if it's posted in the forum, because it's very specific about your assignment submissions and some deadlines and so on. Okay, so Jatin, please take that into consideration. Let us look at a suggestion and see if we can do it. This is on slide 9 by Rohit Pawar. So he says that due to college administration and work and all, can we do some discussion sessions after 9 p.m.? Typically, it's done during working hours. So one suggestion is, see, all of these are recorded and they're uploaded. So if you want to sort of catch up on it, I mean, what you can do is put up a question beforehand. We will make sure that it is addressed and then you can watch the recording later. That's sort of what you can do right now. But Samir, JK, does it make sense to have one session maybe with the TAs or so, some point in the course at a different time? Or, I mean, it'll depend on how many might log in.
Yeah, so I mean, suggestion is well taken, and I understand why the 9 p.m. time slot is provided. We'll try to look at it. I mean, most of our meetings also end at between that 9 to 10 kind of work slots. So let me talk with TAs and see whether there is a possibility. If we could do, I mean, we will do one after the week 4 ends.
Yeah, maybe not through the studio, but just a Google Meet or Hangout.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So we will set up something and we'll try to make sure that some kind of streaming, some kind of support functionality is provided for that.
Okay, so there is one more question which just popped up. It wasn't there, few minutes ago. What amount of literature is needed to design a MOOC? And this is by Deepmala Nigam. So this is actually an interesting question because in a way it's asking, so let me ask a counter question, what all do you need to do as a teacher to design your course, right? So when you're designing a MOOC, you need all of those skills, the knowledge, the disciplinary knowledge firstly, then the pedagogical knowledge on how to teach that topic, knowledge and skills to set questions and assessments, knowledge and skills that will help you understand, what might be difficulties of students and how to address them. So you need all of this plus. And where the plus comes in is in the format of the MOOC, the technology tools used, the constraint, the structure provided by the MOOC and all. So if you want to design a course, I mean, maybe if you haven't designed a MOOC, instead of a MOOC, let me go one step easier and say, let's say an online course for an audience that you do know. And then we can look at MOOCs. If you take your disciplinary content knowledge and your pedagogical knowledge and merge it with the LCM framework, you should be in good enough shape to have a pretty good starting point for an online course. So that's kind of a short answer to this. Anything else any of the other instructors wants to add to this?
I think one more analogy that I would say is, I mean, how much preparation time or reference would you do to create a book of your own, I mean, on any topic? So I think it's almost similar. Think of LCM as a very, I mean, if you write a good book which could captivate the learner, which could have that dialogue with the learner, I mean, you can think of LCM, any LCM MOOC as a multimedia format of that same book. Of course, we make use of the additional features that technology provide and that synchronous nature provides. But essentially the course is like a active book, live book, right? Yeah, so the amount of literature needed for that is, I think, almost similar. I mean, you need to have literature on the domain. You need to know, yeah, I mean, if you are putting it to publishers, you should have sufficient literature about steps. I mean, I wouldn't say literature, I would say guidelines on how to publish and all those things. Yeah, so the same holds good for a MOOC also. And yeah, this is, I mean, I'm repeating the same answer that Sahana said, but I'm giving you a different analogy. That's all.
Yeah, no, both hold. Thanks, JK. Okay, so there is another individual question by PA Raghu on the format of the peer review assignment. So again, we won't take it up here, but we are checking with the NPTEL team and we'll get back to you. On
all the technical difficulties we will definitely address.
Especially the individual ones.
So these are ungraded assignments for a reason, because we are trying out peer review for the first time in Swayam. So we understand that technical difficulties will happen, but we'll address it.
Sounds good. Okay, so those are the questions that were there that we received earlier. But let me go back to the live audience here. And if there is either a question or any point you want to discuss more, we have a few more minutes. Sorry, somebody was saying something. Okay, maybe not. So any of the live participants, so it's a bit amusing to us that the number of learner participants or rather the instructor team is outnumbers the learners, but that's nice for you. It's better than a one-on-one ratio you have. So any comments, questions, points of discussion? Because I remember I've seen some of you in the previous sessions also, maybe previous years also. Any comment? Annapurna Madhuri, Hemlata, and Dr. Siddhi, I think, yes. Any comments? Any comments from instructors? I think Jatin wanted to say something.
Yes, ma'am. We need to inform participants about the deadline of 20th, the peer review evaluation deadline. Many still have to evaluate. That many had issues related to the text, the links coming in the text form. So we have requested the NPTEL regarding that. That will be resolved soon. But by the meantime, they can what they can is they can just copy the link and paste it into a tab, and they can evaluate each other's assignment. As such, JK sir told this is ungraded assignment. They don't have to worry if they are unable to do it. Anyhow, there is a third phase going on inside it. Once this on 20th, once the evaluation phase ends, the third phase evaluation by the instructors will start. So all the unevaluated assignments will be forwarded to the instructors, and the instructors, as such the TAs specifically, will be handling all the unassessed assignments, and then the results will be out. So you don't need to worry about if you are unable to do it right now. But I would suggest try to do it. It's a very good experience.
Okay, thank you, Jatin. Thank you for that. Okay, I think if there are no other questions, we can end today's session here. Dr. Rituji, thanks for joining. And Samir, JK, nice to see you all again. Nandan, Jatin are the TAs. So I think we can end the session if those are the main comments and questions. Sandeep, over to you. We can end the session.